Are we about to see revival in the US like we've never seen before? Over the last 10 years of my life, I've heard many different ministry people talk about revival that is coming to the US. But truthfully, we haven't seen much of that overall. But now we're starting to see things like the Asbury revival and different things that are sparking from that. So what does it mean for us as Christians? Should we be on the lookout for revival? Should this be something that we're seeking after and wanting to be a part of? Well, part of me says absolutely yes. And the other part of me just doesn't quite see it yet. But as we're waiting for that, and as we're looking for that, we can also look back towards what revival used to look like in the US. In the 70s was the last great revival, and this was even acknowledged by many of the media during the time, even putting a 10-page spread in Time magazine that was very positive about this Jesus revolution that was going on.
And there was this like 10-page spread that you can't read online that was the most positive, like, for Time magazine to write that way about Christianity. It was like buoyant, it was optimistic, and it was this positive account of this revival that was sweeping America.
So I'm really intrigued to see this new movie that's coming out in just a couple of hours, actually. It's going to be coming out on Wednesday, February 22nd, and it's going to be interesting to see the response to this movie. This is not some niche Christian production that's going on. It's made from Lionsgate, a massive company. And in fact, I've even heard that they're allowing a pastor, Greg Laurie, who is a part of this movie, to actually give a call to repent and to share the gospel in this movie.
Bonus footage, including Greg Laurie sharing a gospel presentation, which again, I can't believe Lionsgate is letting us do. But check it out. It's coming to theaters this weekend.
That's pretty crazy. So what do we think about this overall? What is this movie going to be about? Is it going to be corrupted by Hollywood ideals? Or is this something that we can actually look into and look forward to as Christians? Now, if you've been watching this channel, you know that me personally, I've had struggles with Christian productions over the years. Many of them have just been really horrible and hard to watch, boring, or just bad quality. But as of recently, of course, we've had The Chosen and some other productions that have really stepped up the idea of what Christian productions could look like. And since The Chosen Season 3 was so successful, having 4 out of the last 8 episodes in theaters, and really showing how a show could do something that never has been done before, this is another point in the Christian evolution of media where we could see Jesus Revolution do something that's great. Do something that has been unprecedented, or at least for a long time within media, in the Christian space specifically. Now, obviously, for us, a lot of things that are tying this movie together is, of course, the actor Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus in The Chosen, and he plays Lonnie Frisbee in Jesus Revolution. The story of this movie altogether is about the Jesus Revolution that actually happened in the 70s. And this was a bunch of people that came to Christ, and there was a hunger and a thirst for him. Many, many, many people were baptized and saved, and they began their journeys during this time. I've even spoken to many of you on this channel in the comments below that have talked about being saved in this movement in California, or the spread that it had across the United States. This was a massive movement that changed a lot of people's lives, and really it was a defining moment in American history, and showing that Christianity is powerful. It's not just an ideal that some people had, it was a niche thing. It was something that really made up the foundations of this nation in a lot of ways. Within this movie, there are 3 main characters that come from the real life experiences of the Jesus Revolution. One is Lonnie Frisbee. He is a young hippie character who becomes basically a leader of this movement altogether, at least for the beginning part of it. He was the spark that really set off everything. He became a teacher and a preacher, and he had some issues behind the scenes, but he was a big part of starting this movement overall. The next is actually Chuck Smith. This is the founder, or the co-founder of Calvary Chapel. Now, Chuck Smith actually passed away in 2013, but it was obviously a major part of this movement, being the pastor who kind of ushered in everything and allowed these hippies to be a part of this great movement. Now, the third person that we see as the main character in this movie is Greg Laurie, who is now a famous pastor, but back then was just getting into his faith. He was actually baptized by Lonnie Frisbee, and we see that in the movie. We actually got to see a scene from the movie that includes Greg Laurie's baptism that Jonathan Roumie and Dallas Jenkins and the director from the Jesus Revolution were able to show us during a live stream just recently. This was a very cool insight into what this whole thing was going to look look like and how it was going to operate. One really interesting thing is that the Jesus Revolution team actually took some of the cast members and the crew members from The Chosen project, such as Akis, who is the cinematographer for The Chosen, and obviously Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus. So Dallas was able to manage to let them go and do these different things in between seasons 2 and 3, right before they got to film for season 3, basically, even though it was a tight turnaround.
As with anything else, I put it before God, and I just said, God, if there's a way for this to happen, if there's a way that you can allow me to do this project and The Chosen, and in one shot, I'll give it everything I got. And fortunately, he's like, yeah, we're gonna have you do both, which left me, I think, 2 weeks between finishing Jesus Revolution and starting season 3. So
might have been a little less than that. I think it was actually 127 hours and 30 minutes was the difference.
Something like that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, this movie should do very, very well. And I'm excited to see this movie break out, maybe even beyond the Christian niche within the sphere of theatrical releases. It should be really interesting, and I think this is a great time for this movie to release. There's no giant movies like Wakanda Forever or anything like that that's really keeping this from doing very, very well. If you can, I would suggest that you go see it in theaters. I'm definitely going to go within the first couple of days, and then we'll have a review here of the movie to let you know my final thoughts on if you actually should go or not. So if you want to wait for that, definitely subscribe and hit the bell so you can see our future videos coming out on this channel. Overall, this movie could have a major impact in the United States, especially during this boiling point that we're at in terms of revival and people getting really interested in Christianity. It could be a new spark to a new revival, or a new era, at least, in Christianity in the United States. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to put too many high expectations on a movie like this, but I do see that there is something that's happening in the United States. People are hungry for God, and that's not normal, especially in this time. This time when so many things are pulling us away from God and really making it such a distracting atmosphere for us to even focus on anything of God. I long for that. I long for the day when my friends and my family and everybody around me is just clamoring to get to God, and they just want to have everything to do with him. And so for me, I'm excited about this. I'm excited for people to see what it was like in the 70s when people were just driving from Texas to California to everywhere else just to get a taste of what God had. And I want to see that again. I wonder if that is going to start happening again, not just the Asbury revival, not just the things that are popping around now, but are we going to see more of this? How much of the culture could actually withstand some of what God wants to do here?
Just yesterday, actually, Beth and I drove over to this. We're wrapping another movie near Asbury College, and there's this sort of spontaneous revival happening there that happened in 1970 as well, and we just wanted to feel it. So my hope overarching for this film is that people will see it and say, maybe this can happen again. Maybe there could be another Jesus Revolution. We're at a time that's just as desperate now. That was the key word to that movement, was it was just such a desperate time in America. And I just think that we're back. And that's the last time God really intervened and showed up in a big way. And, that's my hope. That's my hope, is that people will see it and say, maybe this happen in my life, in my family, in my city, in America, and this could happen again. So
you tell me in the comments down below, are you guys excited about this movie? Are you going to go see it? What are your plans? Were you involved in the Jesus Revolution back in the 70s? And how do you see this playing out in the future? Do you think revival is coming to the land again? Or is this just another moment where people are going to get excited and then it goes back to normal? I guess we'll have to see. But I know that God is going to do what God's going to do, and I'm personally praying that more and more people will come to him, that more and more people will realize how much they need God and how much he is worthy of their attention and their time and their service and their surrender. Man, if only I could make people understand that surrendering to God is just better. The world would be a lot better place. And of course, thank you so much to our patrons who help us to make content just like this. You guys are amazing and the backbone to the channel. If you want to join our patrons and help to support our ministry behind the scenes, then you can go to patreon.com/thesnipelife. There's a ton of extra content over there, including a bunch of stuff from our Israel trip that we just got back from. So if you want to see that, go ahead and sign up in the description down below. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.